Oh, okay. It appears I'm live now. Well, I got the new tarot, the new Golden Girls tarot, the tagline, A Look Into Your Future from the lanai. Now, this is going to be a bit awkward because I'm by myself and I don't have any kind of tripod or gorilla pod holding my phone, so I will be doing kind of like a one-handed show, so things might appear out of focus at times. But I thought I'd share this with you all, okay, because it's fun. I was looking forward to having this deck. I have seen other people review it on YouTube and other platforms. Many say that they like the pastel. It's 1980s pastel style. But many have complained on the downside. Two things on the downside. Most tarot decks come with a book, a guidebook, especially for beginners on how to read tarot. This one does not. It just comes with one instruction card. That's it. So however, the designs on this deck are largely based on the Rider-Waite. And I always found that the Rider-Waite designs were probably the best training deck, the best deck to learn tarot on because of the simple imagery. I did once upon a time own an ordinary standard Rider-Waite deck. I don't know where it is right now. Otherwise, it might have been fun to do a compare and contrast, but like I said, I'm a one-woman show today, and I only have two hands, so it might have been a little problematic. But anyways, let's take a look. As you can see, it's a flip-open top. Okay. Hang on. Sorry, I have to do this. Alright. So, as you can see, there's like an instruction card, basic, shuffle. Okay, and the back. Okay, so there. So there you have the Fool. As you can see, that's Rose. A lot of the images, as you can see, it's 1980s pastel, so sort of, I guess if you can consider the 1980s retro. There it is, you know, the pastels that were made fashionable by the dudes from that other 80s Florida show, Miami Vice. But if you remember in this episode, Rose and Blanche got parts in a seniors production of the well-known Broadway musical Cats. And that was Rose's costume. As you can see, you know, as everybody knows, if anybody followed the show, Rose was kind of the ditz. She was quite naive, quite sheltered, obviously. Whatever street smart she might have picked it up after moving to Miami, of course, leaving St. Olaf. So it's kind of funny, you know, the dog is nipping at her ankle, you know, trying to prevent her from walking off the plank, and she's not looking where she's going. She's reading something, you know. So, yeah. So you can see that's the backing. From here, it looks more like a seafoam green, but I've noticed on camera it looks more turquoise, you know, more blue than green, but from here, it's more green than blue. The Magician, Sophia. Who better? Who better than Sophia? Okay. Yep. Who better than Sophia? She's whipping up her Sicilian curses or her Sicilian spells. Okay. Blanche is the High Priestess. I don't know. I would have chosen somebody else as the High Priestess. But maybe I guess they have to were alternating, or they were kind of keeping with. As you will see when I hit the minor arcanas, right now we're in the major arcanas, and I suppose they had to keep it in fitting. But each character has their own suit in the minor arcanas, which you will see. Hey, Gary, good to see you. Okay, so as you can see, Blanche is the High Priestess. I don't know, not my first choice, but I can see why maybe it was just simply in keeping a sequence of things. The Empress, Dorothy. Yeah. It's funny because the Empress, you know, usually represents, I mean, yes, it represents motherhood, nurturing, a very nurturing woman, motherhood. And I don't know, the character of Dorothy always struck me as anything but nurturing, nurturing, or, she was, I mean, don't get me wrong, she was probably, I don't know, it's a toss-up. My favorite Golden Girls characters were always a toss-up between Sophia and Dorothy, because I love their wit. I love their snarkiness, their sarcasm. I loved it. Okay, so there we go. Hey, Mary, how's it going? All right, so that's it. Now the Emperor Stan. Now, there weren't many who followed the Golden Girls would know. Okay, Stan, that's Dorothy's ex-husband, After 30 years of marriage, he was the one who ran off with a much younger woman, who he met on a flight and moved to Maui with her. But he always shows up. You'd see him at the door, and he's like, "Hi, it's me, Stan." Excuse me. And he usually wore a toupee, the toupee, which you're going to see later on in the deck. The Emperor represents usually a strong man, a leader, force to be reckoned with. I don't know, Stan always struck me as a bit wimpy, but like I said, there weren't any male leads in the show, so there we go. The Hierophant, Sophia. Yeah. Well, Sophia would be a great choice as a Hierophant, or Dorothy, because Dorothy was the teacher. That was her profession on the show. She was a teacher. But I think Sophia was best. She imparted wisdom. She imparted wisdom to the other three women, even though they had living behind them, divorces, they were widowed, children are grown, they're grandparents in and of themselves. Yet they still had a lot to learn, as we saw the relationship with Sophia, right? So I think, yeah, as the Hierophant, and the Hierophant card represents, usually it's religion, like clergy, but it can represent, a teacher, wisdom being imparted, it could be a teacher. It's usually somebody, a leader, somebody in an influential position. The Lover's card. This is going to have a little different representation. Now, the Lover's card doesn't just represent couples, as many in the tarot know. It could represent a friendship. It could also represent partnerships in business, like business partnerships, co-workers, and stuff like that. That should work harmoniously. Dorothy and Stan were anything but harmonious. You see Sophia as the angel. I mean, heck, she always called Stan the Yutz. He was known as a Yutz. So as you can see, they're wearing matching. Dorothy and Stan are wearing matching robes. But they're not together, as you see in other designs of versions of the Lover's card. You usually see the male and female together more closer. But not here, no. And Sophia the angel presiding over them. Maybe their marriage was always doomed from the start. I don't know. Oh, I love this, the Chariot. Hey, Catherine. Good to see you. I love the Chariot. As you can see, and usually it's two lions or two sphinxes or two, pulling in different directions. And that usually represents a choice to be made. The Chariot, it represents a choice to be made, a decision needing to be made. Yeah, so as you can see, Blanche is leading two rather buff-looking dudes. I like it. It's fun. The Strength card, Sophia taming that lion. Excuse me. Now, in the traditional Rider-Waite and other decks, we usually see a young lady. In the Strength card, we usually see a picture of a young lady with a rather subdued lion, but tamed, not in a cruel manner. She has managed to control her lion, but in a gentle fashion. Now, Sophia in the show was anything but gentle with her mouth, but yeah, you can see her being able to even control. It kind of reminds me of the episode, because a lot of these images will remind you of some episodes. There was an early episode in the first season. There was a a mean old guard dog that was hiding under the kitchen table, that was in the kitchen. And Sophia and Dorothy and Blanche were afraid to go into the kitchen. Sophia goes into the kitchen and everybody thinks that the dog ate Sophia, and she comes out with a cracker after you're hearing one whimper from the dog, right? And she comes out, what? He just peed and he hid under. So it's kind of, I think the strength card here is fitting. Okay. The Hermit, Rose. Now this is an interesting card. Usually the Hermit is, the way I understood it, was more for meditation. Time to take some time on your own, solitude, and I think many can call it appropriate during the time of the pandemic. The Hermit card would be one of the cards most appropriate for, would be most appropriate for the time of pandemic. Okay, so yeah. So the pandemic, So here we go. All right. Okay. The Wheel of Fortune. Pretty standard design, similar to that of the Rider-Waite. This is a card that symbolizes the wheel. Your fortunes can either go down or they could go up, depending on the situation at hand, depending on which sequence of a reading. Okay. The Justice card. Rose. Yeah, how often was Rose sent in to mitigate it became upon her, this naive woman. It was upon her to navigate, to navigate or sort of mediate an argument among the other three. The Hangman. This is fun. Stan. And you can see his toupee is half off. Okay, his toupee is half off. It's pretty self-explanatory, the Hangman. Usually represents, as you see an image, like they're stuck and they're hanging upside down, but there is a way on most decks they can release themselves from being trapped. The Death card, pretty explanatory. It's a nice looking. This is less ominous looking. That's what I like about it. It's less ominous looking than most Death cards. The Temperance card usually represents finding balance. It usually represents finding balance. I like this. Yep. Rose. Oh, the Devil, look. Blanche, all in red. And she's eating cheesecake. Because the Golden Girls, one thing they always did, they went over their solaces or they went over their joys. Everything was done over a cheesecake in the kitchen, no matter what time of night or day it was. Oh, I love it. Look! The Tower, ever so apropos. Usually the Tower card. Hi, Jimmy. Good to see you. Now, usually the Tower card represents, a change that was forced, a change that had to happen and it was forced. A change that was forced, an ending, if you will, of something, but it's more dramatic, as you can see. Usually in the Tower card, in the Major Arcana, you usually see a tower and you see a fire. Sometimes you see, people running, and jumping out. Now, I like that this is Shady Pines, because where did Dorothy always threatened to send Sophia? Shady Pines, Ma. That was the retirement community, the retirement community. If anybody remembers in the pilot episode of the Golden Girls, the reason Sophia had to move in with Dorothy, Rose, and Blanche was because Shady Pines caught fire. So this is so apropos in more ways than one, the home caught fire. That's why she had to move in there. So yeah, this is very apropos. The star. Oh, there's Blanche. Trying to pay up. The moon. This is pretty. Yeah, I think this is quite pretty for the moon card. Yeah, Dorothy. Ah, the sun, and who better than Rose jumping on a nice sunny day over sunflowers. Sunflowers. Judgment. Once again, we see Sophia in the clouds as an angel kind of judging, come all to judgment. And that's Blanche, and that is Rose. Yeah, interesting. The world, Dorothy. Yeah, Dorothy. The last card of the major arcana. The world usually represents an ending toward a new beginning, towards new horizons. Which hence, if you start back over again, the 0 card at the beginning of the Fool, which represents usually a new journey, and it can be, but it also warns to be careful, because if you're naive going in, but the world implies you've learned some of these lessons, and it's time to move on. It could represent a move. It could represent travel. Yeah. So I think it's apropos. Now on to the minors, the minor arcana, the wands. Now the suit of wands, those who follow tarot know that the suit of wands represents fire signs, Aries. So Aries, Sagittarius, and Leo. I'm not saying them in order. Yeah, I know. But yeah, Aries, Sagittarius, Leo, usually fire signs. The wands represent fire. So as you will see, Sophia, will represent the suit of wands here, which suits her bombastic personality. She's fiery, Picture it, Sicily. So here we go. So the Ace of Wands. The Two of Wands. There she is. You notice how she's holding the world in the palm of her hand. Sophia is holding the world in the palm of her hand here. The Three of Wands. It's interesting. She's looking out into the horizon. Probably looking over the ocean. I think this was Weinstock. I forgot what his first name was, but he was a love interest of Sophia's on the show. He was a love interest. They got married, and he was a friend. He and his late wife were friends of her, Sophia's and her late wife, and the two men were business partners. They had a pizza knish business. And so he and Sophia tried to reignite, they tried to start another pizza knish business on the beach, but it didn't work out. It got set on fire. And if memory serves correctly on the episode, Dorothy set fire to by accident with a cigarette. Remember the episode when these girls went bowling? The Five of Wands. The Five of Wands. Remember when they all went bowling? Now, the Friend of the Year. This was an episode where Sophia won an award. Six of Wands. Yeah, she won an award. The Seven of Wands. I love it. Sophia's in high heels and wearing a pirate suit. And the wands are all at her, The wands are all at her. The Eight of Wands. Pretty standard. It's pretty much, except for the different coloring. This is more 1980s pastel than the typical Rider-Waite deck. But it's pretty much the same design. The 8 wands shooting out diagonally. The Nine of Wands. Poor Sophia. I like the outfits they draw on them too. Okay, Sophia, the Ten of Wands. Usually, you see people, in the other decks, you see 10 wands weighing down, they're trying not to let all the weight of those wands fall on their backs. Here she is. She's kind of slumped over trying to carry all those wands. Usually represents a heavy burden to be carried. A heavy burden to be carried. So, yeah. If anybody else is a tarot reader and has some insight to add to the imagery, feel free to do so in the comment section. There she is. The Page of Wands. Yeah, pages are generally young people. We're into the court cards. You know, the last four of the suit, the court cards. Pages are, yeah, generally young people. You know, very young people. Usually 30 and under. There are exceptions to the rule if you're dealing with somebody over the age of 30, but not quite as mature or more naive or more, you know. And that's pretty much, yeah, with the pages. Could also be the messenger, too. I don't know who he is. I don't know who he was, the Knight of Wands. I do like, in this deck, they do find, you know, males who guested on the show or who had a recurring appearance. So the Knights and the Kings and all the court cards are represented by males who appeared on the show. I don't know who he is, though. Who is that? Sophia, Queen of Wands. Ever so apropos. That fiery woman sitting on, reigning over her. King of Wands. I don't know who he is. I don't know who he is. Was he a love interest of Sophia? I'm not sure. I remember on the show, they would show the ghost of Sal, who was Sophia's husband, late husband on the show. But he didn't look anything like that. I don't know who he is. All right, we're on to the Pentacles. Earth, representing usually it's material, wealth or lack thereof, earthly. Earth. So think earth signs of the zodiac, if I remember correctly. My memory is really shoddy these days. Oh gosh, what are the earth signs? This is something I don't remember well, the earth signs, and I always have to consult my notes. Okay. The earth signs. Yeah, Capricorn, Taurus, and Virgo. Yeah. Capricorn, Taurus, and Virgo. So let's take a look. And the Pentacles, of course, are represented by Blanche. Yeah, by Blanche. I like the juggling, you know, trying to, you know, balance there, you know. And if you notice, it's like a conveyor belt shaped like an infinity sign. Hey, Shell. How's it going? So it's shaped like an infinity sign. Yeah. So, yeah, and I think it's apropos Blanche would represent the suit of Pentacles because she is quite materialistic. If you remember on the show, she was really quite materialistic. You know, everything was, yeah. All right. So as you can see, they're baking together the Three of Pentacles. Usually in the Three of Pentacles, we usually see a group of three workers working together. Number threes often in any suit often represent trinities in the tarot. Sometimes in the case if you're having a love reading, it could represent a third party, a love triangle, if you will. Pentacles, though, are not really a romantic suit to begin with. Like I said, they represent wealth, work, earth, you know, material. So yeah. But so here it's fitting here. They're baking something together. The three women, they're baking. Maybe they're making one of their famous cheesecakes that they used to eat all the time late at night. I don't know. The Four of Pentacles. Yeah, Blanche sitting on the suitcase waiting. Okay, the Five of Pentacles. Usually a card that represents hardship, poverty. More often than not, in the typical Rider-Waite, it is represented by outside a church. There is a downtrodden couple walking outside of a church. Maybe they see they can get, maybe they don't see that they could go inside the church to get help. Maybe they don't, or maybe they do, maybe they don't. I don't know. I always wondered about that. I guess it could be interpreted maybe some are too proud to ask for help, but not really, but yeah, so, but usually the Five of Pentacles represents hardships, it's poverty, it's your basic needs are lacking, you know? So, yeah. The Six of Pentacles. Ah, yes. Usually receiving or giving of charity. Usually it suggests that if you are well-to-do or you're fortunate, you're doing well, reminds us to give to charity. It could be the receiving of charity as well. It's funny, the Five of Pentacles representing poverty before, maybe, following the Six of Pentacles representing after that, that help is coming, or that you could be receiving the charity. Seven of Pentacles. Usually that represents a harvest, the harvesting. You see, usually seeds are being planted here. Well, here we got a tree. Yeah, Blanche's pentacle tree. There's Blanche decorating a cake. The Eight of Pentacles. She's decorating that cake. So you can see it represents, in this case, the imagery is quite simple, Her task is nearly finished. As we saw earlier in the Three of Pentacles, they were baking said cake. Not the cake. Now it's like the finishing touches, cake decorating, if you will. The Nine of Pentacles. There's Blanche out on the lanai. The Ten of Pentacles. Could be the family tree. If anybody remembers, there was an episode Blanche had to go for her family tree because she was joining. She had to prove that her and her ancestors were purely from the South. It was some kind of group for Southern Americans, and they had to prove themselves. The Ten of Pentacles usually represents, it represents families and an abundance. It represents a strong family. The Page, we're back. There's Blanche. Love that pink jumpsuit they have her in. Okay, here we go. The Knight of Pentacles. Now, she had many love interests. Blanche. Don't know who he would be. Some say he was Big Daddy. Big Daddy was obviously not a love interest. He was Blanche's father on the show. I don't know. I don't see... Why would they make Big Daddy the knight, though? I don't know. Queen of Pentacles. There she is, looking all regal. And him, I think, is her late husband, George. We often saw... In some of the episodes, we saw her having a dream sequence, dreaming of her late husband, George. And definitely by the mustache, I can tell it was this is him. This is him. The Cups. The Cups. Water signs. Represents water. Water signs. Cancer, Scorpio, Pisces. Yes. Cancer, Scorpio, Pisces. Yeah. That is the understatement of the year when it comes to Blanche and men. Yeah, this is true. This is true. She was a Southern belle. Okay, so we're on to a new suit. Yeah. The cup overfloweth. So it looks like, a good start. Cups are represented by emotions, okay, as opposed to the pentacles. It's emotions. So guess who's representing them? It's Rose. It's Rose. That looks like Miles Weber, okay, the Two of Cups. Usually a new couple. Two of Cups representing yeah. Easy for me to say. New love. New coupling. New love. And so we have, Rose right here. And that's Miles Weber. He was a love interest in 1 or 2 seasons of the show. Yep. St. Olaf Durhard. Yep, exactly. St. Olaf. Okay, so now look at them. They're all... usually the Three of Cups, we see it as a playful card. Sometimes it's represented by children playing. And this one, they're happy, they're celebrating. And look, there's a cheesecake on the table. How fitting. There's a cheesecake on the table. Oh, yes, there's Rose. If anybody remembers, that was the pose she had. Because there was a time she moved out. There was an episode where she moved out from Blanche and Dorothy's place, and she moved in with new roommates. But she had found that the new roommates were kind of cold and unfriendly. And so she was lonely a lot of times. So you saw that scene where she's sitting there hugging a pillow. The Four of Cups is often represented, by indifference. The Shady Pines cheesecake? No, I went by the Shady Pines before you came on. Shady Pines is the Tower card in the Major Arcana. So yeah, it's, so you can see Rose. Four of Cups usually represents, you feel like giving up, you're kind of like you don't really care about much anymore. It's kind of melancholy. Five of Cups, often, that's a tough card as well, the Five of Cups. All the fives in the suits of the Minor Arcana are tough cards, they're kind of rough going. This is no exception. There's Rose and Miles dancing. Six of Cups. And the Seven of Cups. It's funny, in my deck, I usually, when I do readings, I use my Cosmic deck, the Norbert Lasche deck. And that is represented, it looks more like a torn between two people. But yeah. Okay, the Eight of Cups. Okay, yeah, that usually represents walking away from a relationship, walking away from something. Like, I'm done, I'm over it, kind of thing. Nine of Cups. Happy days are here again. There they are. The cups are all full in the background, and there's that cheesecake. Yeah, Rose is happy. She got her cheesecake. Ten of Cups. Usually it means abundance. Yeah, usually means abundance. It's a happy sign. As you can see, it's probably a younger version of Rose, like we see the back. We see kind of like a retro 1950s style dress on her. And off into the horizon, you can see a little girl. You see the child, probably Rose's daughter, Kirsten, who we saw on the show. And of course, that would be a younger Charlie, her late husband. Families, once again, families. The Page of Cups. Here we go, Rose. Yep, cheers, Rose. I don't know who he is, though. Pages and Knights usually represents the messenger as well, yeah. The Queen of Cups. Queen of Cups. Yep. Usually a gentle soul. The Queen of Cups is usually a gentle soul. King of Cups. That's Miles Weber. I'm convinced that's Miles Weber again. Now we're on to the swords. Here we are. Air. Representing air. The air signs. Gemini. Libra. Aquarius. Usually represents mental stuff. It could be mental health, intellect. Yeah, definitely intellect. It's anything to do with the mind, the intellect. So that's what the swords represents. Like the pentacles, that suit doesn't really represent much, or at least not in the way of good news, in the way of romance. Here we go. There she is. She's blindfolded with her two of swords, with her arms crossed. Usually the Two of Swords represents you have to make a decision. Which way you're going to go or the other. Yeah, the Three of Swords, very sad card, I find. A very sad card. That usually, if one were to ask health questions, which most readers would discourage, health questions are often discouraged for obvious reasons. But if one were to ask them and the Three of Swords would pop up, that usually represents, some health issues. Usually dealing with the heart, but it could be other major organs. Three of Swords also can represent a love triangle. As I said, any threes in any suit could represent things like a love triangle. And the Three of Swords here, usually the heart is broke. It's a broken hearted, so that usually that means the end of a relationship, end of a couple. It's an end, it's a sad ending. Ah, the Four of Swords. Look at Dorothy. Yes, as you can see, the swords is represented by Dorothy. She was the teacher next to her mother. She was also quite wise. She had a smart mouth. She was a bit prickly, but she was often intelligent. You look to her for if you needed, you needed some smart advice. So yeah, there's Dorothy, not a care in the world to have lying down in her deck chair on the lanai. Now this is the Five of Swords. Yeah, there's funny roses over there in the horizon. Kind of get the idea that Dorothy is picking up after Rose's mess. Oh, I love this. The Six of Swords. As you can see, she's got her swords in a boat and she's rowing away. And can you see off in the horizon, Stan, the little word spelled out, Stan. It's like she's sailing away from Stan. Oh, I like it. Oh, yes. The Seven of Swords, often represented by sneaking out in the middle of the night. A move. It could be a move. And usually it's sudden. Like you're running away from something, usually. Okay, the Eight of Swords. Interesting. She looks like she's in a prison. No, Eight of Swords also, it's not a nice card. It's a difficult card. But yeah, interesting. This would be represented. In my deck, it represents walking. You see a couple walking away from swords. Oh, yes. Dorothy and her nightmares. The Nine of Swords. Usually, the Nine of Swords, usually it could be people playing behind your back or talking behind your back. Somebody stabbing you in the back, usually. Yeah. Oh, I love this. Ten of Swords, I love this. Look where all the swords are. On the picture of Stan, I thought, oh, that's pretty funny. This is the picture of Stan, the Ten of Swords. It's like, yeah, I've taken control of my life. But the Ten of Swords is not a nice card either. Usually you get that in a reading. Usually represents verbal. Usually it represents verbal or emotional abuse, so it represents psychological abuse of some kind. The Page of Swords. Yep, she looks like she's playing baseball with the sword. I don't know who that is. The Knight of Swords. I don't know who that is. The Queen of Swords. Yay, Dorothy. Yay, Dorothy. The King of Swords. Yeah, if anybody remembers, on the show, the series finale, it was a two-parter, I believe. Dorothy gets married to Blanche's uncle, who was played by Leslie Nielsen. So that's probably him. I forget what his character's name was on the show. Yeah. So that's the cards. That's the deck, as you can see. If there is one critique, when I saw in the reviews, everybody complained that the stock was thin. And to the point they were afraid of using it too often for readings because it was thin and they might wear off really quick. Hi, Kim. Good to see you. Good to see you, Kim. So, yeah, maybe. So that's the main critique. Okay, the cards are, the card stock, it is thin. I was imagining something like totally paper thin that was going to rip every time or tear at the corner and then would get all bendy or tear every time I would shuffle them. I don't think so. They do have a glossy finish, and so, yeah, there's some kind of lamination. They are thin, and one has to be mindful, but I don't think they're as thin as others have portrayed them to be. I think they're stronger. I mean, definitely, as with any tarot, you should probably keep it inside the box in which they came. So, yeah, like I said, and what you see here is the turquoise in reality. It's seafoam. It's seafoam green, So, yeah. So, yeah, those are the, so that's the deck, all in pastels. Very pretty. And as I said at the beginning of the video, unlike most decks, this one does not come with a guidebook. It does not come with a guidebook. So, if you're a beginner and you're using this deck, I might suggest that you find. I can't recommend a book offhand, but find a book, Amazon or Chapters Indigo for, tarot for beginners, and it'll help, help guide you along as to what the significance of each of the cards are. And like I said, it is, it is based largely off the Rider-Waite deck. And the imagery is simple. It's pretty simple. And that's what, for those who are beginners, that's mostly, it's using your intuition. You're forming a story with the images on the cards in any kind of sequence when you're giving a reading. And you got to follow your intuition as a reader. What story are all of these images telling? What story is each image telling, So, a lot of it is intuition, but yeah, so you would have to get a book. If you were to get this deck and you've never done a reading, you'd have to buy a book. Okay, Tarot for Beginners or something along those lines. Otherwise, I think this is going to be a fun deck to use. Yeah, I'll do it. I'll definitely, use it in my readings. I'll definitely use it. But yeah, like I said, it's not as thick as the cardstock, but I don't know, the thickness it's pretty much similar to my Norbert Lasche Cosmic deck, the thickness of the cardstock. So I don't think and I have another deck that is so paper thin that I don't even use them anymore. I don't even use them. So yeah, it's okay. The cardstock is okay. It's not the best quality. I paid quite a bit for this through Chapters Indigo. A while back. It was ordered a while back, but it was back ordered because, of course, the pandemic, and everything was back ordered. It was ordered a while back. But yeah, it's a fun deck. So yeah, but I have to say, you're basically paying for the Golden Girls brand at the end of the day. You're paying for the Golden Girls brand. But yeah, but anybody who's a fan of the Golden Girls and who is a tarot reader or wants to learn how to read it, if you find a few extra bucks for something, completely frivolous, yeah, have fun, go at it, order it. It would be a frivolous purchase, but yeah, go for it. So anyways, it's 7:02 and I've got to figure out what I'm having for supper. Oh boy, yeah, cooking, fun, okay. So yeah, anyways, so I'll catch you all later, and I hope you enjoyed this video. For those who joined in late or who left early, the video will be left up in its entirety, so you can check for yourself. So bye for now, everybody.